The Debt That Binds. The command deck of the Celestial Concordance flagship, Eternal Vigilance, hummed with the soft sounds of advanced technology. Admiral Zira Vos stood with her 4 arms clasped behind her back, her silver-scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of holographic displays. The expansive viewport before her revealed a small blue-green planet hanging in the void. Earth, she said, the word feeling strange on her forked tongue. 3rd planet from an unremarkable yellow star. Senior Tactician Laddick approached and offered the traditional chest bow of respect. Preliminary scans complete, Admiral. The dominant species calls themselves humans. They've achieved spaceflight, but their technology is rudimentary. Their most advanced vessels use chemical propulsion. Admiral Vos's vertical pupils narrowed as she studied the planet. The Celestial Concordance had encountered many civilizations during their expansion through the stars. Some became allies, others subjects, and a few, those deemed too unpredictable or aggressive, were neutralized before they could become threats. Their development patterns concern me, she said, gesturing to a data stream with one of her lower arms. They've progressed from primitive flight to rudimentary space exploration in less than a century. Such acceleration is unprecedented. The Science Directorate suggests containment rather than contact, Laddick offered. Their psychological profiles indicate high aggression paired with unusual adaptability. Vos nodded slowly. The Concordance had learned caution over millennia of interstellar diplomacy. Better to observe these humans from a distance while the High Council deliberated their fate. Maintain surveillance but withdraw to the shadow of their moon, she ordered. No contact. 3 days later, Admiral Vos's personal scout vessel cut through the darkness of space on a routine inspection of monitoring satellites in Earth's outer solar system. She preferred to oversee critical operations personally, a habit that had earned her respect among the ranks. Final satellite calibration complete, reported the pilot. Returning to the Vigilance. Admiral. Vos acknowledged with a gesture when alarm suddenly shrieked through the cabin. The vessel shuddered violently. Micrometeorite collision, the pilot shouted. Primary power core breached. Vos moved swiftly to the system's console, her 4 hands dancing across controls. Divert auxiliary power to life support and communications. Impossible, Admiral. The pilot's voice was tight with fear. The collision has cascaded through our systems. Communications array destroyed. Life support failing. Vos felt a cold calm settle over her. The Concordance did not fear death, but she regretted the waste. There were still many services she could render to her people. Send emergency beacon, she ordered. Then initiate stasis protocols. Beacon activated. The pilot confirmed as emergency lights bathed the cabin in crimson. But Admiral, the nearest Concordance vessel is 3 cycles away. Our life support will fail in hours. Then we face our ending with dignity, Vos replied, beginning the ancestral preparations for death. Hours passed as their vessel drifted, systems failing one by one. The temperature dropped as thermal regulators shut down. Vos and her pilot had entered the meditative state that would preserve oxygen when an unexpected proximity alert jolted them to awareness. Impossible, whispered the pilot, checking the sensors. A vessel approaches, but it's not Concordance. The design was unfamiliar, angular, and crude by Concordance standards, with visible weld lines and external radiators. Vos recognized the markings from their research. Humans, she said in disbelief. Their communication system crackled to life, the translator struggling with the unfamiliar language. A face appeared on the view screen, pink-skinned with dark eyes and black hair pulled back tightly. This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earth vessel Odysseus. We've detected your distress signal. Do you require assistance? Vos hesitated. Contact with less advanced species was strictly regulated, but their situation was dire. This is Admiral Zira Vos of the Celestial Concordance. Our vessel has sustained critical damage. Life support systems are failing. The human showed no surprise at Vos's alien appearance. Understood, Admiral. Prepare for emergency docking. Our environmental systems can accommodate a variety of atmospheres. Captain, Voss warned, our power core is destabilizing. Approach poses significant risk to your vessel. Captain Chen's expression remained steady. Noted, Admiral. We're proceeding anyway. Voss watched in astonishment as the human vessel maneuvered alongside their crippled scout ship. Their docking procedure was primitive but effective. When the airlock cycled open, Voss and her pilot stepped into the human vessel, breathing in the strange scented air. Captain Chen greeted them personally, showing no fear despite being significantly smaller than the four armed Concordance officers. Welcome aboard, Admiral. Our medical officer is prepared to assist with any injuries. Your intervention is unexpected, Voss said, studying the human with interest. You risked your vessel to save unknown aliens. Chen shrugged, a peculiarly human gesture. We received a distress call. Where I come from. That's all the reason needed. Hours later, after their immediate needs were addressed, Voss stood on the bridge of the Odysseus, watching as her scout vessel was carefully towed behind them. We should reach Earth's Luna station in 3 days, Captain Chen explained. From there, we can arrange communication with your people. Voss turned to face the human. Captain Chen, in the culture of the Concordance, what you have done creates a binding obligation. There's no obligation, Chen replied. It's what anyone would do. Perhaps among humans, Voss said solemnly. But for my people, a life debt is our most sacred bond. You have saved not only my life, but the knowledge and experience I carry for my civilization. I, Admiral Zira Voss, stand in your debt until it is repaid. Chen looked uncomfortable. That's really not necessary. The debt exists regardless of your acceptance, Voss continued, placing one hand over her central heart in formal declaration. What you have done cannot be undone, and neither can my obligation. 2 months later, after a flurry of diplomatic exchanges between Earth and the Concordance, Voss returned to her position aboard the Eternal Vigilance. The Concordance leadership had been displeased by the premature contact, but recognized that circumstances had forced her hand. Voss resumed her duties, but something had changed. The humans she had met defied the psychological profiles compiled by Concordance scientists. Their willingness to risk themselves for unknown entities suggested values that resonated with her own people's ancient codes. 6 standard months after her rescue, Voss was summoned to a classified briefing with the War Council. As she entered the obsidian chamber, 12 of the highest-ranking commanders rose in formal greeting. Admiral Voss, the Supreme Commander, acknowledged. Your expertise on the human situation is why you have been included in these deliberations. Voss took her place at the oval table as holographic displays activated around them. The High Council has reached a decision regarding Earth, the Supreme Commander continued. The human's development trajectory presents an unacceptable risk to Concordance security within the next century. Preemptive neutralization has been authorized. Voss felt her heart accelerate, but maintained her composed exterior. The evidence suggesting humans are a threat remains circumstantial. Their resource consumption patterns, territorial expansion impulses, and technological acceleration curves match those of the Vrek Imperium before they became our greatest adversaries, countered Fleet Commander Teslin. We cannot risk another such conflict. The operation will commence in 60 cycles, the Supreme Commander announced. The Eternal Vigilance will lead the primary strike force. Tactical simulations predict minimal Concordance casualties. As the briefing continued, detailing the planned systematic dismantling of human defenses and infrastructure, Voss sat perfectly still. The debt she owed to Captain Chen, to humanity, weighed against centuries of loyalty to the Concordance. When the meeting adjourned, Voss returned to her quarters. She accessed her personal terminal and pulled up the file containing her rescue by the Odysseus. The images of Captain Chen and her crew working tirelessly to save alien lives they had never met before filled the screen. For the first time in her distinguished career, Admiral Zira Voss contemplated treason. She began with small actions, suggesting tactical delays, requisitioning unnecessary equipment reviews, subtly undermining the operation's momentum. But as preparations accelerated despite her efforts, Vos realized more drastic measures would be necessary. 3 weeks before the planned attack, Vos entered her private quarters and activated a specialized privacy field. She looked around at the space that had been her home for decades, at the commendations and honors that lined the walls. Then she began systematically downloading classified attack plans, fleet formations, weapons specifications, and defensive vulnerabilities. When she finished, she recorded a brief message to her second-in-command, not explaining her actions, but passing traditional blessings for those who continue after one's departure. Admiral Zira Vos, decorated war hero of the Celestial Concordance, then did something she had never done before. She ran. The unbelievable repayment. The small, unmarked vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Admiral Zira Vos had chosen this approach carefully, avoiding the main travel routes and monitoring stations. After 3 weeks of navigating through obscure star systems and dormant wormholes, she had finally reached her destination. Proximity alert, chirped the ship's eye. Earth defense satellites detected. Vos expected this. Earth's defenses were primitive by concordance standards, but they weren't entirely ineffective. Within minutes, her sensors registered multiple human vessels moving to intercept. Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Force. Identify yourself and state your purpose, came the transmission. Vos activated her communications array. This is Admiral Zira Vos of the Celestial Concordance. I request immediate audience with Captain Maya Chen and your defense council. I bring critical intelligence regarding an imminent threat to your planet. There was a long pause. Vos understood their hesitation. A high-ranking officer from a technologically superior civilization, suddenly appearing alone in their system, would trigger every security protocol they possessed. Maintain position and prepare to be escorted to Luna Station, came the eventual reply. 6 hours later, Vos sat in a stark white room at Luna Station, surrounded by suspicious human officials. The room felt small to her concordance physiology, the gravity slightly too weak, the air too rich in oxygen. She waited patiently, 4 hands folded in her lap, until the door finally opened. Captain Chen entered, now wearing a uniform with additional insignia indicating promotion. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of the Admiral. Admiral Vos, Chen said, "This is unexpected." "Captain, or is it Commander now?" Vos inquired. "Captain still," Chen replied, taking a seat across from her. "But I've been reassigned to diplomatic services after our encounter. You've caused quite a stir by arriving unannounced." "The circumstances required discretion," Vos explained. "I come without the knowledge or sanction of my government." This statement brought a noticeable shift in the room's atmosphere. The human officials exchanged glances. "That's concerning," said a gray-haired man who introduced himself as Admiral Santiago of Earth Defense. "Why would a senior concordance officer go rogue?" Vos reached slowly into her uniform and removed a data crystal, placing it on the table. "In 53 Earth days, the Celestial Concordance will launch a preemptive strike against your planet. This contains detailed information on their attack plans, fleet compositions, weapon capabilities, and defensive vulnerabilities." The room erupted in overlapping questions and exclamations. Admiral Santiago raised his hand for silence. "Why would you betray your own people?" he asked, his voice hard with suspicion. Vos turned to Captain Chen. "Because of a debt that cannot be forgiven or ignored. Captain Chen saved my life without hesitation or expectation of reward. In my culture, such an act creates a binding obligation, a life debt. You're risking everything, your position, your life, because of that." Another official asked incredulously. "The sanctity of life debts has been the foundation of concordance ethics for millennia." Vos replied simply, "I cannot allow the destruction of those to whom I am bound by honor." Admiral Santiago studied her carefully. "Forgive my skepticism, Admiral, but this could be an elaborate deception. How do we know this isn't misinformation designed to manipulate our defenses?" A valid concern, Vols acknowledged. I anticipated your distrust. That is why I have included authentication codes and access protocols that will allow you to verify everything I've provided. Captain Chin, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. I believe her. All eyes turned to Chin, who straightened in her chair. When the Admiral's ship was failing, she warned us away because approaching posed a risk to the Odysseus. She was prepared to die rather than endanger strangers. That's not the behavior of someone who would orchestrate deception. Nevertheless, Santiago said, we'll need to verify this information thoroughly. Time is limited, Voss warned. But while your experts examine the data, I offer my full cooperation and knowledge to prepare your defenses. The following weeks were a blur of activity. As the humans verified Voss' intelligence and confirmed the approaching Concordance fleet through their long-range sensors, Earth mobilized for war. Voss worked tirelessly with their military strategists, explaining Concordance tactics and suggesting countermeasures. They expect minimal resistance, Voss explained during a strategy session. The Concordance relies heavily on technological superiority and precise coordination. Unpredictability is your greatest asset. Captain Chin, who had been assigned as Voss's liaison, asked, "What about you, Admiral? What happens when the Concordance discovers your role in this?" Voss' expression remained impassive, but her eyes betrayed a momentary sadness. I made my choice when I left the Vigilance. There is no returning from this path. 2 days before the expected attack, Earth's defense forces were deployed according to strategies developed with Voss's guidance. Rather than concentrating their fleet as Concordance tactical algorithms predicted, Earth's ships were scattered throughout the system in seemingly random patterns. Stealth satellites carrying new weapons designed based on Voss's knowledge of Concordance shielding weaknesses were positioned in asteroid fields and around moons. When the Concordance fleet emerged from hyperspace, they encountered not the disorganized resistance they expected, but a prepared opponent with unexpected capabilities. Aboard the Earth Defense Command Center embedded deep within Luna, Voss watched alongside human leaders as the battle unfolded. The massive Concordance vessels moved in perfect formation, their sleek silver hulls dwarfing Earth's largest ships. They're deploying according to standard protocol, Voss noted. Precision is valued above adaptability in Concordance tactics. The humans had prepared accordingly. Instead of engaging directly, Earth's ships executed erratic, evasive patterns while launching autonomous drone swarms, a technology the Concordance had dismissed as inefficient. The drones, however, proved devastatingly effective against the Concordance's synchronized defense systems. They're adjusting, Voss warned as the Concordance formation shifted. They'll attempt to isolate and neutralize your command vessels next. Admiral Santiago nodded. Exactly as you predicted. Execute Phoenix Protocol. On the tactical display, Earth's apparent command ships suddenly powered down, appearing disabled, while previously hidden vessels activated and assumed control. The Concordance fleet hesitated, their carefully choreographed attack plan disrupted. "This is unprecedented," Voss whispered, a note of pride in her voice. The Concordance war simulations never accounted for such tactics. The battle raged for hours. Though technologically outmatched, Earth's forces compensated with unpredictable maneuvers and adaptive strategies. The Concordance, accustomed to swift victories against less advanced civilizations, found themselves in a protracted conflict they hadn't anticipated. Suddenly, the main view screen shifted to show a face familiar to Voss. Commander Galactic, her former protégé, now apparently in command of the Concordance fleet. "This is Commander Galactic of the Celestial Concordance," he announced. "We demand to speak with Admiral Voss. Our intelligence confirms she is with you." The room fell silent. Admiral Santiago looked to Voss, who nodded and stepped forward. "I am here, Galactic," she said, facing her former student. Galactic's vertical pupils narrowed. "Admiral, you have committed the highest treason against the Concordance. Return to the fleet immediately, and perhaps the Council will show mercy." "There can be no mercy for what I have done, nor would I accept it," Voss replied steadily. I acted according to our most ancient laws. The life debt supersedes all other obligations. You would destroy everything, our plans, our security, for an archaic custom, Galactic demanded incredulously. I would honor the fundamental principles that make us worthy of our advancement, Voss countered. If we abandon our core ethics when they become inconvenient, what separates us from those we consider primitive? The exchange was interrupted by new alerts. Earth's forces had managed to disable several key Concordance vessels, including their main tactical coordination ship. Without its synchronizing influence, the Concordance formation began to fragment. Your choice is clear, Commander, Voss continued. You can continue this attack, suffering losses unprecedented in Concordance history, or you can withdraw and reconsider whether humanity truly deserves annihilation for the crime of developing too quickly. For several tense moments, Galactic was silent. Then, this is not over, Admiral. The Council will not abandon its security concerns. Then propose negotiation instead of extermination, Voss suggested. I have lived among these humans. They are different from us, yes, unpredictable, individualistic, sometimes irrational, but they are not the threat our simulations portrayed. Hours later, after tense communications between Luna Station and the damaged Concordance fleet, a ceasefire was established. The Concordance, faced with unexpectedly effective resistance and the tactical insights provided by Voss, agreed to withdraw to the outer system and open diplomatic channels. In a private meeting room, Captain Chen found Voss staring out at Earth through a viewpoint. The Concordance Council has agreed to send representatives for formal talks, Chen informed her. They're calling it a reassessment of human developmental potential. Voss nodded slightly. A face-saving measure. The Concordance rarely admits errors in judgment. What happens to you now? Chen asked quietly. I can never return to Concordance space, Voss replied. I have violated our highest military protocols. But perhaps I can serve a new purpose as a bridge between our civilizations. Chen stepped closer. The Earth Council has officially recognized your actions in saving our planet. They're offering you asylum and a position as special advisor to the new diplomatic corps being formed to engage with the Concordance. Voss turned to face the human who had unknowingly set these events in motion. When you rescued me from that disabled scout ship, did you ever imagine it would lead to this? Chen smiled. Not specifically this, no. But that's the thing about humans, Admiral. We're full of surprises. Indeed, Voss agreed, her four hands clasping in the gesture of new beginnings that among her people signified hope for the future, a quality I have come to admire. 6 months later, the first formal treaty between Earth and the Celestial Concordance was signed. As both a pariah to her own people and a hero to humanity, Admiral Zira Voss occupied a unique position in galactic politics. The life debt that had driven her to betray everything she knew had transformed into something new. A commitment to building understanding between two vastly different civilizations. In private conversations, Concordance officials still condemned her treason, but many privately acknowledged that her actions had prevented a potentially devastating conflict. Humans, meanwhile, embraced the story of the alien admiral who risked everything to repay a debt of honor. On the anniversary of the battle, now celebrated as Alliance Day on Earth, Voss stood beside Captain Chen at a memorial ceremony. They watched as human and Concordance ships performed a coordinated flight demonstration overhead, something that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. Was it worth it? Chen asked quietly. Everything you sacrificed. Voss considered the question carefully before responding. My people have a saying. The path of honor is never easy, but always right. I have lost much, but gained something greater. The knowledge that when faced with the ultimate choice between loyalty and justice, I chose correctly. Chen nodded in understanding. That's very human of you, Admiral. Voss' mouth curved in her species' version of a smile. Perhaps our differences are not as vast as we once believed. As they watched the ships dance across the sky, Voss reflected that sometimes the most unexpected deaths create the most extraordinary outcomes, a truth that both humans and the Concordants were only beginning to understand.